morning, good morning. This is Carol Chamberlain sitting in for the lovely Leza LaChapelle Dandos on the news 103.5 KYCA. I'm so happy to be here, but I'm sorry Lisa's a little under the weather, I hear.
Yeah, what do we call it? She's out on assignment.
I have not gotten the hang of that yet. Anyway, Leza, you feel better, and we'll take care of this next hour for your lovely self. So, Matt, what'd you do this weekend?
Oh, no. Carol just throws me right under the bus.
Absolutely. Get under there with those wheels. What's cooking?
Nothing. I went down to Phoenix and I photographed the Northern Arizona Wranglers getting whooped by my Rattlers.
You're the Rattler fan.
Yeah, I've been. This is my 10th season photographing the Rattlers. So.
Oh.
Yeah.
And they looked very good, apparently.
Finally. It's the best game we've had all season, in my opinion. They looked very good.
I am so glad to hear that. And how about you, Drew? What's new with you?
Same old, but it was a wonderful Father's Day weekend.
Oh.
So that was good. My son went and grabbed my daughter and my two grandsons and brought them up from Southern California for the weekend. And, having a 5 and an 8-year-old, I'm tired. I had to come to work to relax.
Come to work and get a little rest in. I like that a lot.
But it was wonderful, and we had a great time. And, I just hope all the fathers out there did the same.
I absolutely hope you're right about that. So did you watch any golf?
We did not turn on the TV. When you got those guys were, out riding, biking, hiking, walking the dogs, going swimming. Just, got to keep them busy. They don't sit very well.
I gotcha. Well, I watched just a little bit of golf and got to see Bryson DeChambeau win. So I guess it's score for LIV Golf and not so much for the PGA Super Tour. It seems that it was a really, really, really tight game, and it's amazing that all those 4 days of golf come down to one shot. It seems like it always happens, but I guess that's what pros do. They're all good.
It all depends on the day and their attitude, because they're all capable of winning. They're all capable of hitting the ball really well. And again, more than likely, it's the short game that does it.
There's no question about that. So Rory McIlroy, who apparently is number one on the PGA side, was one stroke ahead. Actually, I think they were actually tied at that time, or maybe he was one stroke ahead. And he missed a short putt on 18, and it was just so sad to see. So he goes back in the room and watches as Bryson is coming up the 18th hole. He gets there. He gets into some real trouble right off the green.
Yep.
Real trouble. I'm talking real trouble. Shoots it into a sand trap. Gets out of the sand trap into within 3 feet of the hole and sinks the putt. The look on Rory McIlroy's face was just so sad to see. But I tell you, the celebration by Bryson was also heartwarming. A good SMU Go Texas person won that game.
We like that.
It is. It was wonderful to see. And I'm sure Leza from her sickbed was watching that. I would bet you anything. So my husband Ken is a real fan of Nat Geo Wild. Anybody like that? How about you, Matt?
Yeah, it's good. It's an interesting, channel. Yeah, depends what they got going on. Was it Shark Week?
Oh. He likes to watch animals eating animals, that sort of thing. That's a real nature thing.
No, that makes me hungry.
Oh,
you can't have that.
Oh, that's his relaxing sort of thing right before bed.
Before bed. Let's watch a tiger eat something.
Yeah,
the pursuit.
Watch the lions and the hyenas go at it, and then go to sleep.
So I will have to tell you that was happening in my backyard yesterday. So Ken's out in the backyard, and I hear this, Carol. And I go running outside. And not apparently, because I saw it with my own eyes, is this massive snake. underneath a bush of ours that I had walked right before by side when I was deadheading the rose bush earlier in the day, and he is devouring a rabbit. So it's a pretty darn big snake.
Yeah, that's a big snake to eat a rabbit.
Yeah.
I only saw a part of him. He was all curled up under there. And, I mean, he was really big around. But let me tell you how they can disengage their jaws and get around that rabbit. It was just, well, it was nature at its best, I guess.
Well, it's a heck of a design they have. I mean, that you could eat your food whole and still breathe, and they got the tube underneath their tongues, and
I was sitting there watching this thing go. I mean, honest gosh, it happened really pretty quickly, that
oh yeah.
inhalation of the. Oh, anyway.
What kind of snake was it?
Well, I tell you, who knows? Ken assured me, what is it, a king snake? Or those big ones that look like rattlesnakes?
They devour rattlesnakes, yeah.
Well, so, and Ken was saying, oh, I was hoping we had one in our yard. Well, it is nice to keep the rodents away, but I will tell you that rabbit was dead before he ate it. And so I'm thinking, oh, maybe that was the poison from the rattlesnake that killed the rabbit so he could eat it. Who knows?
Maybe he ate the rattlesnake and the rabbit.
Oh, I have to tell you, I'm going with the fact that it's a king snake, and it's going to really
you
help
want
us.
it to be a king snake.
Yeah, I do
Just
want
let
it to be a king
snake.
So, okay,
whatever it is.
let's just get together and say that was a king snake. Anyway,
it was a king snake, so you can sleep soundly at night.
exactly, exactly. And the reason Ken even saw it is because our standard poodle Max was barking, but he was barking at a safe distance from it. And Ken could say, I could tell there was something there, so
Yeah.
that's why I went.
The dog's smart. A safe distance.
A safe distance is absolutely right. So we went down to Phoenix this past Thursday and came back on Saturday. And I will tell you that when we left for Phoenix, we had this absolutely gorgeous Japanese maple, purple, those frilly leaves, full lush plant. There's just it's new. It's about 6 weeks old. One of the most gorgeous plants I've ever seen. We got back on Saturday. I looked out the window and the thing was curled up and dry and dead, even though it had been well watered right before we left.
But you were gone for 3 days.
2, 3, okay, 3 days.
3 days with the heat that we've had. No, you got to put like a water drip in it, or you would have had to water it every other day, and it's just too hot right now.
I've got to tell you. In fact, I read all about it. I'm nursing this thing back. I've given it 2 huge drinks of water to see if. Now, some of it has come back, but some of those leaves are just. I think I read about the possibility of a second leaving right before fall, so I'm hoping that's going to happen. Otherwise, we're going to have to wait until next year to see that beautiful thing beautiful again.
I hope I'm wrong, but typically it's when you shock a plant like that, that's what happened. It shocks. Now it's got to go through everything. So
You think it'll come back?
yeah. But it's going to be on its time, not on your timeline.
that is-
That's the problem.
I tell you, I look out the window and I just really want to cry. But speaking of the weather, what are we looking like the rest of the week?
Well, the good news is that right now we're at about our normal temperature, which is about 87. Okay, but last week we were above our temperatures. We've got a system to the north of us which is going to keep this heat in, and then tomorrow we'll heat back up. We'll be in the low 90s, mid 90s the rest of the week, and then other than that, we're hoping that we get a little bit of moisture so we can get some rain out of the deal, because we have the heat. Now we just need some moisture to go along with it.
Oh, we sure do need some moisture. And it's those hot winds that feel like a Mariah that you can only imagine what it's doing to the leaves of the rest of our plants. Just sort of.
Oh,
thinking.
yeah.
Okay, so I read something that is sort of frightening. So last week I read about Southwest Airlines having a problem with something that controlled the rudder, a backup system that controlled the rudder. And so they were having this movement of the plane from wing to wing to wing. Now I'm sitting there wondering what the heck it must feel like to look out the window and see it going, rocking back and forth like that. Would have scared the heck out of me. Well, it seems like another time in April, a Boeing airplane, a 737 MAX 8, went into a plunge off the coast of Hawaii, dropping at a rate of more than 4,000 feet per minute. Now, they were able to pull the plane back up, but it got within 400 feet of the ocean's surface. I'm going to let that sink in a minute.
Was that the one that took off from Sky Harbor too?
I
'Cause I heard about that.
I don't see that it took off from Sky Harbor,
Okay.
but it safely made it to Honolulu and nobody was injured. But, well, nobody was physically injured. Just imagine what psychically they were.
Because, yeah, I think it was like 6 months ago, 7 months ago, something like that. A very similar situation happened with a 737 that left from Sky Harbor, and I think it came back, though. But, yeah, it had an insane descent, and people, like, literally got hurt. And
Oh,
in the cabin, they were, like, hitting the roof and the walls and all kinds of stuff.
it
yeah.
shows you that you truly have to stay buckled up. I mean, I'm buckled up and I'm hanging on to the armrest, so I would never hit the ceiling because I'm way too buckled in. Okay, I just found out that lipstick sales are up. Now, why does that matter, anyone would say, but apparently some take it as an economic warning. Now, my
What?
lipstick is always on, so it doesn't matter with me. But it seems like a groundhog shadow-like barometer called the lipstick index might mean bad news for the economy. Estee Lauder chairman Leonard Lauder coined the term back in 2001 when he figured out that during economic downturns, U.S. women turn to simple pleasures. The lipstick pick-me-up. So his sales went up while everybody else's were in the tank. So I guess it means that we just need to hang on because some bad times might be ahead.
I was afraid that it was going to be something else.
Like
Like the women are buying more and more lipstick because they're back out on the market.
We
I like the way you think, though, Matt. I really do.
actually that is a pretty fun one. You think they're going to put on some lipstick and try to find a richer man, or
Right.
or well, we won't go any further than that. There could be another reason.
Yes, the whole LGBTQ whole people, maybe they're getting into fashion statements and they're buying more lipstick.
There's a real possibility for that. There's
Need
a
more
possibility.
colors. Yeah.
So, have you ever seen those Tarzan movies where somebody gets stuck in quicksand? Have you ever seen quicksand in person?
Yes,
Where?
Louisiana,
When?
1983, 84.
Was it you getting stuck?
We were on a airboat, and the guy we were like, oh, we want to go over there. He goes, no, you don't. That's all quicksand over there. And we got close, and there's nothing there. And I didn't need to test it. I took his word. Okay?
I would have taken his word as well. But apparently there's somebody named Jamie Cord who was walking on a beach in Maine, and all of a sudden she got stuck in quicksand up to her waist. Just like that, up to her waist. But fortunately, her husband was there and able to pull her out by her arm, which is pretty exciting. But imagine if she was walking early in the morning all by herself. Apparently, experts say you can somehow or another scooch your way out, but I would have a hard time believing that.
That's why they always want you to walk with a walking stick for the snakes. You just never know what's going to be out there. Walking stick can always be handy.
We have had a lot of talk about nature this morning, and I have so enjoyed it. But I think we're going to take a break now and
Okay.
be back because we have some really exciting guests with us. So we'll be back in just a minute. Good morning. Good morning. This is Carol Chamberlain sitting in for the lovely Leza LaChapelle Dandos on the news 103.5 KYCA. We are so lucky this morning to have with us Jen Best, the Director of Cognitive Function Development Therapy at Palera Health, and Kate Delafield, who is the Program Manager of, I'm going to call it CFDT, so that we can save a little time. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
So, I think the first question, we're going to be talking about brain and its function, at which to me is just our life. So, tell us what cognitive function development therapy is.
Sure. So, cognitive function development therapy is a modality. So, it's a way of interacting with people in order to help to strengthen and make better the cognitive functions that they have, meaning their attention networks, their memory system, and helping these underlying things to work better so that they can really interact better with real life.
Gotcha. So, what is neuroplasticity? Because that's one of the things that we're going to be working on developing. What is neuroplasticity?
So neuroplasticity, so the neuro part of that comes from neurons. And so of course your brain has about 100, million neurons and trillions of connections. So neurons are actually what helps the signals in our brain transmit, and plasticity, of course, like something is plastic, you're able to mold it and change it. So neuroplasticity allows us to change things, functions in the brain. So every time we learn something, all the times that we're processing things, our brain is undergoing this changing process, neuroplasticity. And they used to think that the brain was, fixed in youth. But throughout the whole lifetime, we are able to take advantage of neuroplasticity and see and achieve change.
So, does our brain get lazy if we don't do things to stimulate it? Does it just do the same thing and get sort of lazy?
Well, you could maybe say that. I would say that it's more homeostasis, so it likes to stay the same. But it's like with your muscles. So with muscles, you need to remain active and you need to challenge them in order for them to maintain their vigor. And that's the same thing with the brain.
So, oh, great. So, are we changing it every day? If we do something the same way all the time, does it just get used to doing it that way?
Yeah,
I'm
that's the
seeing some nodding.
homeostasis.
That's the
Yep.
homeostasis. So, what would make it different? What would make it better? How can we learn to do new things?
CFDT.
Well, so who uses CFDT?
Anyone ages 6 on up. We have worked with some littles, 5-year-olds that are almost 6. And I believe our oldest client right now is 84. So anywhere in that age range, anyone that's having issues with focus, with memory, issues, anxiety. We work with individuals with all different types of diagnoses, from ADHD to bipolar to
PTSD.
PTSD is a big one. As well as individuals who have traumatic brain injuries, who have had strokes, just a wide variety of different individuals to help with that cognitive function.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So how does somebody get in to see you? I mean, when does a person know they need to come see you, or how do they get there?
Yes. When they're having a significant struggle, I would say, with everyday functioning, and what they can do then is just really call Polera Health. And so they would just call the main number and they would ask for an intake and say they want CFDT.
Do you also get referrals from physicians who say, I've identified
Absolutely.
someone?
Mm-hmm.
So just my regular internist I go to that person and say, I'm having some trouble thinking. Would that be somebody who would get to you?
They could.
If they know about us.
If they know about
Mhm.
you. That is really such a good point. Okay, so if I have a child who is hyperactive and not doing well in school, is that someone who could come see you?
Absolutely.
Yes, as a matter of fact, we work in the schools down in Camp Verde and Cottonwood, and in a few schools around here too, the Paulden Charter School and Mingus Springs in Chino and Acorn Montessori. So there are some schools where we actually have CFD therapists that work in the school, and they work specifically with kids who are having challenges with their learning. Based in the inability to remember or to process information well, or to focus their attention. So
Actually, that's really an exciting thing, because you used to hear all the time about these kids who would just be put on drugs in order to make them less hyperactive. But that just changes the way their brains work anyway, right? So what would you do for that child? Just give me an example of how you do what you do.
sure. So we start with an objective measure of cognitive function. So we use what's called the CRAOS. It's there are 12 different sub check-ins that really see where the brain is functioning. And then we look at the 2 lowest functions that a person have. Let's say it's working memory and executive attention. And so we would then target those areas with engaging, fun, using our tools. We're going to do things that are enjoyable but a little bit intensive in a fun way to help stretch and change that function.
When you say working memory, what's working memory?
Working memory is what allows you to actually update and change information in the brain. So, for example, if I said 5 plus 12, your working memory would come online because you can identify what 5 is and you can identify what 12 is, but you may not automatically know that that's 17. Your brain has to process in order to come up with 17. So that's changing that information. So that's what working memory is. Or as we're talking, you're identifying the words as I'm saying them. Everyone who's listening to me is. But then you're creating meaning from it, and that takes working memory in order to do that.
Well, and how about executive thinking? It sounds like those two are basic things for us. What's executive thinking?
So I'm looking at the executive attention network, and what that does is it it's what enables you to prioritize information and to figure out what's the most important thing, what order should things go in. So it's not executive function in terms of like learning system, but it's actually a little bit more basic in the brain.
Okay.
So
Okay. Okay. So I have a question about depression. So is depression something that you can well, first of all, one of the things I hear sometimes when people are depressed is that they get into a loop in their brain and they just can't get out of that loop. Is CFDT something that can help with depression and that loop thinking?
Absolutely.
How?
So what we do for that is, in part, depression is more of a lack of emotion rather than just a depressed state. I mean, a low state. And so what we do is we help with intensity. And so we bring someone up to a higher level of engagement. So they end up laughing or being excited or engaging in a very enjoyable way. And then they come back down to a regular state. And then we bring them up to that higher intensity, sort of like you do when you're maybe in a workout, maybe a high intensity workout where you're up and down and up and down. That process of going up and down and up and down in our engagements is what actually helps to kind of shake things up in the brain. And it eventually, over 12, 24 weeks, is able to help that.
Okay, we're going to take a short break here because I am excited to get back and talk about exactly how that works. So we'll be back in a minute. Good morning again. This is Carol Chamberlain on the news 103.5 KYCA talking with Jen Best and Kate Delafield about cognitive function development therapy offered at Polera Health. Right before the break, we were talking about depression and how you can get someone laughing within, did you say 15 minutes, really?
If they're willing.
I think that's a really important key. So a person who is willing to make change, anxious to make change, comes to you. And how long does it take if somebody is severely depressed? They come to you and say, I really want to make some change. How do you do that?
So we work with people 2 times per week, an hour at a time. And we start with a block of 12 weeks because it does take time to change the brain. You will often see change, though. You could see that in as little as 6 weeks, sometimes 8 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
And then the change can just kind of flourish from there.
And we're the way in which we engage our clients is first there's rapport building, and so really getting to know them
Sure.
as much as they want to share, and then just getting right into it and working with them using the tools that we have in a fun, engaging way, so that it's like physical therapy for the brain. When you have a sore shoulder or knee, you go to the physical therapist and they are using targeted exercises to work out the inflammation in that part of your body so that it works better. We're doing exactly that in the brain and working off that neuroinflammation that happens due to everyday life, due to stressors, due to trauma, due to whatever, the situation is. And through our engagements, we're bringing up that level of intensity. So it's hard work for the brain, but we're having fun while we do it in a playful way so that there is laughter. And oftentimes you're laughing at yourself for, being in that intense moment and feeling like you're all thumbs in that brief moment. So it's essentially you're being goofy while working out that brain and really working to reduce that neuroinflammation. And that's what makes our brain work shinier.
I tell you, it's just so exciting to hear about. I can just imagine how wonderful your jobs are. So talk to me about the factors that contribute to brain health and fitness. What makes that better?
So in general, and this is something that we like to just include in tangent to the work that we're doing, and we like to help educate the public about that as well. In conjunction with actually intensively or intentionally working out your brain, you also want to have some physical exercise. And I don't mean that you have to suddenly work out for an hour a day and have a huge engagement with that. But there are many studies that support the fact that people who move their bodies will have better response in their brain. So that is definitely something that we always encourage people to do to the extent that they are able. Motion changes emotion. So if you don't like your emotions, move. Get moving.
Actually, you hear that all the time, that working out makes you feel better. So that's why.
Yes.
So in getting ready for today, I was online yesterday and I saw somebody who said, you only use one side of your brain the most. So if you're shaking your head.
No, that's a myth.
So
It is.
He was saying that you put your right elbow on your left knee and your left on your right, the right on your left, and you do that for 30 seconds every hour, and you're going to be lots better. Is that true?
Well, actually, that's good. That's supported. That is a cross-body motion, and we incorporate that too in our work. And people can do that, every day, like you said, at your desk or, wherever you are. Engaging your body in a cross-body motion is really good for the connectivity of the brain. And what they were trying to say there is that the left side of your brain controls the right side of your body and vice versa. And that's why if you cross over the midline, if you imagine a line down the center of your body, that's why you're going to have activation that happens better in both sides of the brain, one side at a time or so. But so yes, I would definitely support that. Cross-body motion is great. It's even better if you do some sort of multi-sensory engagement with it. So you say things, or, if you're crossing over and putting your left elbow on your right knee or whatever, if you can also do something else with your vocalization. Or things like that. It'll
Anything
work even better.
multisensory.
Oh, wow. So my husband, Ken, tries eating with his left. He's right-handed. Eats with his left hand. Used to wear his watch on his right arm just to shake things up. So you're telling me he's ahead of his time.
He is. That's good. Good stuff.
So What's next?
Next, I always mention like a brain boosting diet, and even more. I mean, there's so much out there about diets, but I want to actually emphasize even more than the diet piece is hydration. You know, we live in Arizona here, and hydration is so important that we really we can't say it enough. If you even have 1% dehydration, if you're not hydrated enough, it can actually produce 5% of decline in your cognitive function.
Whoa.
So it's really, really important to remain hydrated. That's half your body weight in ounces of water every day, and more if you're doing outside work or if you're, have more strenuous engagements.
Half your body weight in ounces of fluid a day.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of drinking. Well, for me.
It is. And if you drink coffee or some sort of caffeinated beverage, that's a dehydrator, so you have to replenish.
Wow.
So
Okay.
Yeah.
So now we have physical activity and a brain boosting diet and hydration. What's next?
thought life management is what I call it, because you can change the way your brain works by your intention. So what you focus your brain and your thinking on. So if you dwell in the negative land, guess what? It's not going to work as well, and it will impact you. If you dwell in gratitude land, where you're thankful and you see the bright side of things, you are going against the nature of the brain, because the brain has a negativity bias. It always wants to generate and go over to the negative side to keep us safe. Look for danger.
I did not know that. I didn't know that.
Survival component. It comes from being, from the primitive times of being in a survival mode.
Oh my!
Look out! There's a cougar right there, or a bear.
Oh, let's just keep us safe. So
Yes.
we have a couple of more things to talk about, factors that can contribute to our brain health and fitness, but we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back to that. So see you in a minute. Good morning. This is Carol Chamberlain sitting in for the lovely Leza LaChapelle Dandos on the News 103.5 KYCA, talking with Jen Best and Kate Delafield about cognitive function development therapy. And we were just talking about factors that contribute to brain health. So let's just keep that going, because I think it's so important to the process.
Absolutely. I was talking about thought life management and, keeping on the bright side. There are some physical hacks that people can do to actually help support their brain in that process of being grateful or having good more positive thoughts rather than the negativity bias. And one of them is actually smiling. Smiling widely and holding a smile will actually release endorphins in the brain.
Whoa.
And those endorphins, of course, make us feel better. And so you can change your mood, like I mentioned before, with motion, or with this particular motion, which is to smile and to hold the smile.
Oh my
And it
gosh.
will change the climate in your brain. And because of the social nature of individuals, if we're actually out with other people, we can help to brighten the room and help with social engagements as well by smiling at other people. And so that doesn't even take a prescription or anything.
And it makes you feel, no wonder it makes you feel better. It makes me feel better. I'm sitting here smiling as wide as I can while you're saying that. So, and I feel great.
Exactly.
So what does sleep have to do with this? Does something happen when we're sleeping?
Absolutely. So sleep is critical for regeneration, essentially, in the brain, and actually more specifically memory consolidation. So you have sleep patterns, and so you go into different levels of sleep cycle. There's sleep, sleep has a cycle, and there are different stages that people go through when they sleep. And the different stages of sleep correlate with the different types of memory that get consolidated. And so it's really important for people to have proper sleep in order to have good brain health. It's really critical. So if you are an individual who has trouble sleeping, see whoever you need to see in order to help that process to become under control, because it is so critical.
And so how does medication for sleep affect that? Because doesn't that change the way you sleep?
It could. There are a lot of different options for helping with sleep, and I think they're getting more of a mixture of things that are a little bit more natural based versus the medication based. There's sleep hygiene practices, meaning
Right.
you have schedules or you have make sure you don't use your phone right before bed or different things like that people can do as well.
Got you. Okay, so now we've covered exercise, diet, and hydration, and thought life management, which I think is just such a wonderful, wonderful way of putting it, and adequate sleep. Anything else?
Well, and then there's I call it deliberate brain exercise. So not everybody is realistically or feasibly going to be able to come in and see us for cognitive function development therapy. So what can you do at home every day in your life to help your brain to help preserve and enhance your brain health? Exercise it every day. And that involves learning new things, exposing yourself to learning situations. They don't have to be formal learnings. It can be any kind of learning. And some people say, well, should I do crossword puzzles or Sudoku? And I say, only if you do the opposite one of the one you're good at. Because everyone wants to do what they're good at. And then that doesn't really tax the brain quite in the same way. You want to make sure that what you're doing is actually kind of taxing the brain. So if you're not good with numbers, give Sudoku a try. And furthermore, give yourself a time limit so that you have a little bit of positive pressure on the brain to perform and to stay focused and to do that.
So we really do need to be challenged.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So is that you do this with your patients as they come in?
Yes, I do. And I do see a few clients, and but then I'm, as Jen calls me, kind of the air traffic controller for the program. So keeping it functioning for all of the therapists that we, that are part of the program. But yes, when the clients come in, like Jen mentioned earlier, we are focused on the two lowest cognitive functions. And so we're choosing tools and loading them in a way that works that cognitive function to bring that up, because the other ones, are not as low. And so while everything that we do tends to work all of the functions, how we load the tools will, can make a difference in the two lowest.
So give me an example of the tools that you use.
Well, some of our staples is that we have their CFDI cards. So they were created by the Institute. One of the sets has the alphabet. And so it's uppercase, lowercase, and they're in red and black. And so we might be doing what we call quick call. And so we're tossing out the cards while the client is naming what they see while doing crossbody. So if we tell them, if you see a red card, you take your left hand and cross to your right shoulder. You see a black card, you take your right hand and cross to your left shoulder. And we're doing that at a pace that works for them. And sometimes we might be using a metronome to keep pace with that. And then we can load that in a bazillion different ways, really, depending on what we're wanting to work with them.
I'm sitting here visualizing this now, and it really is pretty much of a hoot. No wonder people are laughing
Exactly.
at themselves. That would be pretty hard to do. Another tool, give me another example of what you might do.
So we use actually playing cards. So you just have a regular deck of playing cards. And so we do a lot of work with the working memory by using those, because when you use numbers and you calculate, you're actually, that utilizes the working memory and strengthens it. And also cold calculations, which numbers are cold calculations, meaning they don't have an emotional connection. So images or words have emotional connections in our brain.
Oh, okay.
But numbers don't have that. And so when you do numbers, it's cold calculations.
Gotcha. Oh my gosh, I'm learning so much, and we're going to learn a little bit more when we come right back from this break. See you in a minute. Good morning again. This is Carol Chamberlain on the news 103.5 KYCA, talking with Jen Best and Kate Delafield from the Cognitive Function Development Therapy. What a tongue twister at Polera Health. So we've been talking about the what you do. Let's talk about to whom. So let me hear a success story.
Okay. So we worked with so many different individuals, but one in particular that sticks out was this little boy. He came through the program when he was about 10 years old, And he presented with PTSD, presented with many fears, nightmares, night terrors, anger from his previous living situation. And in coming, he was, placed with family that was raising him. And coming, his therapist had recommended CFDT. And coming through the program, working with the tools to and focused on his two lowest cognitive functions. Throughout that process, the anger started to subside.
Wow.
He wasn't as emotional over different things that would present, even simple things like, I have to pick up my shoes out of the living room, not getting angry over that. So the anger started to subside. The nightmares started to go away, the night terrors that he was having. He would wake up in the middle of the night every night with just these horrific night terrors, which were physical,
Oh, wow.
not just nightmares that are, scary dreams, but night terrors that were physical for him. Those started to go away. The fear that he would have over his environment started to dissipate, and he became fearless and comfortable in his environment and confident in who he was, stepping out and doing new things and focusing better in school, making friends, which was something that he was very, leery of doing because he's afraid of getting hurt. He was living in his survival brain.
That is just the most exciting thing
Yeah.
I've ever heard. So, how many times a week did this take, and how long?
So he went through the program 2 days a week for an hour each time for roughly 3 months, and at the end of that 3 months is when he graduated from the program. But there was significant change that was noticeable after a couple of weeks of staying with this program.
How old is he now?
He is 13 now.
Oh my gosh,
Mm-hmm.
what a difference in life because of CFDT therapy.
Yeah.
That it's truly miraculous.
It
Such a good
is.
thing to hear.
It was really, really cool to see him come into his own person and blossom and just be a kid.
It is life changing.
Mm-hmm.
So something that happened early in life. At 10 years old, a change started being made, and at 13, he's a different kid.
Completely different.
Oh my gosh.
He's stepping out into his world and being able to live the normal life of a 13-year-old.
So we know PTSD. We've heard about depression. What other things can be helped by CFDT?
So anxiety, any kind of anxiety disorders. We have worked with some people who have schizoaffective, bipolar,
Oh, wow.
some of the more challenging mental health conditions.
We also work with individuals living with autism.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And traumatic brain injuries help with that as well?
Absolutely. And depending on the severity, of course. We always talk about how we can't back up the truck. We can't change what has happened. But what we can do is help an individual live more successfully within their world and what that looks like for them.
Okay, so as we're coming to the end of our time together, can anybody take advantage of this? Could I call and say, I want my child looked at, or how can that happen?
Yep. Yeah, you can just call Polera Health, call their main number, and ask for CFDT.
Do you by chance have that main number at the top of your head?
928-445-5211.
One more time.
928-445-5211.
Oh,
Sorry.
that's perfectly right. I have to say, this has just been such a pleasure to have had Jen and Kate from CFDT at Polera Health. Thank you all for joining us, and thanks to our listeners. Hopefully, Leza will be back with you tomorrow morning. Goodbye, and have a good Monday.
Still got 10 seconds. But if they want to plug or something, I don't. There we go.